Hello, and welcome back again to my podcast, She Knows. And I don't know everything, but I know enough, okay? So, this is going to be, I think, part 2 of episode 1. But this one is going to be about my first introduction to police officers. So this is going to be very interesting. I don't know if you guys know anything about raise the age law, but I'm going to explain that a little bit. So, I think I was around, 5 years old. I'm not sure. It was a very long time ago, but I remember it. I remember the situation vividly. I was riding with my mother in, I think it was a drop top red convertible. I'm not sure, but I know it was red and I know it was a drop top. I don't know that day what was happening, where my mother got this car from. I don't know. All I know is that she had this beautiful vehicle. She was taking me out for a ride, and all of a sudden, we got pulled over. So my mother was arrested. I can remember a little bit. I don't know, don't quote me. I don't know if the vehicle was stolen. I really don't know. All I knew is that she wasn't supposed to be driving it. So I think we were on 6 Mile, driving up 6 Mile. I'm not sure. But you would think in those type of situations that, they arrest my mother, they're going to try to figure out where the child should go. So, I told y'all this was back some years ago, maybe in the early 90s, late 80s. So I'm going to tell y'all where they took me. I can remember riding in a police car. I don't remember anybody talking to me, but I remember walking into the police station. They put me in a cell. I was there for about, it seemed long, maybe an hour to 2 hours in a cell by myself, little girl. So, there were no cell phones back then. There were no pagers. So I really don't know how long I was sitting inside this cell, but I was sitting inside this cell for a very long time until someone came and got me. It was really surreal for me. I didn't know what was going on, and it made me, I thought about this memory as I was thinking about what was the next thing I was going to talk about. And it was this. Now, can you imagine your child, girl or boy, being put away? Because whether my mother is wrong or right, because I like I said, I don't know what happened with that story. I know my mother was incarcerated and she could have been wrong, but my focus is the impact it had on me as a child. I was stuck. Who puts a child inside of a jail cell to wait to get in touch with their parents or something like that? Mind you, like I said, I could have been sitting there for God knows how long. It's not like they could text my stepfather. It's not like they could call my aunties or my uncles. It wasn't none of that going on. So I sat in our way. Nobody came back there and talked to me. Nobody offered me any kind of information. Just tell me what's going on. Nothing. So I brought that up to say how really important it is for us to be mindful of laws, because there were no laws back then for those type of situations. Do you see what I'm saying? There was nothing established for youth in those type of situations. Now, I'm just saying I didn't commit a crime, but I should not have been put inside of a jail cell for something one of my parents did. Moving forward, like I said before, I'm going to talk about the raise the age law. Why this is so important, but why it's still so new. So we all know we got 50 states in the United States of America, okay? So I'm gonna speak about Michigan first. What it says about Michigan, and give me a second. I'm pulling up some screenshots I put up about the raise the age law and what it talks about concerning the state of Michigan. So this law was enacted or beginning October 1st, 2021. The state is to reimburse 100% of the costs provided to juvenile justice services when a court exercises jurisdiction over a juvenile who is 17 years of age, but under the age of 18 at the time of an offense. That's just what I screenshot off of Google. I'm going to explain that though. So think about it. This says 2021. This was just enacted in Michigan. So if a youth commits a crime before that date, they were going to get incarcerated with adults. Now let that register, let that sit, let that simmer. Okay. Imagine what's going on if you 15, 14, 13 years old doing dumb stuff, 17-year-old doing dumb stuff, and you end up in a cell or in a prison with grown offenders. Do I need to say any more? We have the state that I live in currently, New York State. It says the law will take effect for 16 years olds on October 1st, 2018, and 17-year-olds on October 1st, 2019. This is the time that New York State enacted this law of raise the age. And I got hired to work in youth corrections at that time because it was, I guess, going to be an overflow and they needed more workers. So that's actually how I got in. My badge said, hired for raise the age. So, once again, that wasn't too long ago. 2018, 2019. So someone at that point in time was the catalyst to make that change. Because and I did a study on this before when I was in college, if you look at how many youth were incarcerated with adults who are vulnerable to so many different things, it's crazy. I mean, like, what are you going to do? How can you help them? And what's going on? It's crazy. And I bring that up to go back to why I said this field with criminal justice is important. You cannot walk around and not know what's going on. And guess what? Who's getting arrested? African American children, majority of the time. I'm not saying that it wasn't other people getting arrested, because it was other nationalities coming in, but mostly ours. That was who was coming in. And it's crazy because when I think back to being a little girl and being in that circumstance and realizing, well, actually, I didn't realize anything. I just knew I was in jail and how it impacted me. I was scared. I was young. I didn't know what was going on. And nobody was there to help me. And like I said before, that was years and years ago. Maybe 20 years ago, 25 years ago. I don't know. I was 5 years old. I was a little girl and I sat in the jail cell by myself at 5 years old. That does not make any sense. But this is what I'm saying, why we have to be involved with the system and understand the laws, because these laws that they have in place, some of them are unfair, some of them are old, and some of them were made just for African American people. Also, going back to that, I want to read something else to you guys. There is, I think, only, it says, after a flurry of raise the age reforms, now a total of 47 states define a juvenile court jurisdiction to include persons up to at least age 18. Michigan and New York have continued to raise the age so that a young adult remain under the purview of juvenile courts until they turn 19. So the one thing I want y'all to pay attention to is that 47 states have now enacted it. We got 50 states. We have 50 states. Where are the other 3 at? Why haven't they enacted that law? Why haven't they picked up on it? And that's important to know and understand. States have power. They are individual. New York State is different from Michigan State. Michigan State is different from Ohio State. Florida State is different from North Carolina. So they have different laws. So, and this is why I'm talking about these things. This is why it's important to know and understand what's going on, because the youth are important. Can you imagine your son and daughter in that situation? I'm pretty sure you can't. It sounds crazy to say a little 5-year-old girl was sitting inside of the bars waiting for somebody to pick her up. And that was my first interaction with police officers, with law enforcement officers. They thought it was okay to put a little girl inside bars to wait until her parents come and pick her up. And that's because I wasn't thought of as being important as an African American little girl. I was not important. She's just going to be a product of her mother. It's probably what they thought. So it didn't matter. It didn't matter. So what do we do now moving forward in this country when there's things out there still happening in the law? Like, it's people still, youth. Well, I don't want to say they're getting better at it, because people got different perspectives on the youth. They say they should get adult charges. Scientific studies have shown that youth, their brain is still developing. They say the brain is not fully developed. I think at least 2 at the age of 25. Don't quote me on that. I'm just saying. So that's something I want y'all to pay attention to with y'all children. Be mindful. Understand the policies and the laws of your local government and when things happen to your children. Mind you, that young lady, that young man is our future. How things impact them is how they're going to see they're going to see the world like this. So when I interacted with youth, I take my time with them. I don't need them seeing me as another one of those. I want to respect them. I'm going to respect them even if they get out of hand, because there's a way to do things. Because some youths have done crimes, right? We know this. We know they out there doing wrong, you know, for many reasons. But the goal, they say the goal is for youth corrections or adult corrections is to rehabilitate them. So when we're in these positions, we have to take the time out to find out what's going on with them. Now, that's easier said than done. Like, I'm saying it like it's super easy. It's not. I sat there with youth sometimes for 16 hours, talking them down, calming them down while they going through their emotional breakdowns. That's not easy. But you know what kept me encouraged was because I was one of them once before. I knew what it felt like to be incarcerated as a youth. And I'm not talking about the moment I sat behind bars when I was a little girl at 5 years old. Okay? I'm just talking about when I got incarcerated as a youth. You know? Being disobedient. Right? Not listening. I should take that back. I don't think it was like a not necessarily not listening thing. I was actually dealing with my own pain in my life for losing my mother. So how that was manifested was me thinking that the world couldn't understand. And at that moment, you know, that's how I felt. So, and that's what I'm saying. That's what the youth, they come in with that heavy burden. They come in with that all on their chest, you know, after experience living out on the street, being homeless or being raped, getting in trouble because they homeless, stealing food, and that's how they catch their first case. Can you imagine? Or was that you? It's what I'm saying. Was that you? So I wanted to bring that to y'all attention. That is something to pay attention to moving forward. I work with a great staff there. We didn't always agree, but we knew that the mission we on was the youth. And I actually seen a lot of those people go out their way for them. And a lot of the staff was African American, which made a difference. That made a huge difference. So kudos to the Erie County Detention Center, okay? You know, they doing a different type of work in there, and it's not easy. And actually, which is crazy, they probably don't remember, some of the workers actually was with me when I was young. I tell you how long some of them been there, because at one point in time, it was when the detention center was out across the street from Alden jail. And I could tell you the time that I went when I was there. It was when DMX came to town. He was arrested for not paying child support, and he was incarcerated here in Buffalo, New York. But they put him in the Albany jail, Erie County jail, which is out in Albany, New York. And at that time, I was across the street from it. And, you know, it was all on the news and stuff like that. So we knew about it. And I'm like, you know, I'm young. I love DMX. Okay. So I knew that he was across the street, and I felt some type of way because if you listen to DMX music, DMX got a lot of wisdom, I think. That's my opinion. So, that's, like I said, that's why I remember that moment so much. Talk to your youth, talk to your son, talk to your daughter. Don't let this system take advantage of them. And if they wrong, they wrong. You got to tell them when they wrong too. Because if my son and my daughter go out there and do something crazy, knowing I've been trying to set an example for them of what not to do because I done did so much wrong to try to make it right, then that falls on them. But you got to tell your child when your child is wrong. You cannot let your child just run amok. And if you cannot do it yourself, you might need to reach out to some support systems to get your child some help. Find our resources. And if there's not resources, then we need to start creating something. Like I said, this is one of the reasons why I'm trying to get this information out, because I want the youth to have a better future. I want the youth to have options. I want them to feel like when they grow up that it wasn't all that bad. See what I'm saying? So, yeah. So I thank y'all for listening, for stopping by. I hope you take this one very serious, because this was a real situation. It happened to me. It probably happened to many others back that time. I don't know. I haven't actually heard anybody talk about something that's so sensitive as this. And like I told you, I was 5 years old. So this is what this podcast is going to be about, revealing some truth here in America with this criminal justice system in our community. So once again, welcome to my podcast, She Knows. But I don't know everything. I know enough.